Hello, welcome to White Threads FlossTube number 18. Thanks for joining me today. If you were with us for the last episode, you will have seen my discussion of thread twist and how it interacts with stitches. A few people said, and I had already thought this, that it would be really good for me to talk more about this, so that's what I'm going to do today. So I've found my very few pieces of Z-twist thread so that I can do some stitching and show you how it works differently than the S-twist thread. And I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about which stitches this makes the most effect with, changing between S-twist to Z-twist and how that's going to make the difference. So as we saw in the previous episode, it makes a difference for stem stitch and outline stitch and bullion stitch. Those were the three that I talked about last time. But I also wanted to suggest that French knots it makes a difference for, Portuguese knotted stem stitch it makes a difference for, buttonhole or blanket stitch, and whip stitches. There are probably others as well, but basically it's any stitches where the threads can intertwine or interlock in any particular way. It shows up more in some of these stitches than others, and in some stitches that you work, thread twist has very little effect at all. So if you're doing satin stitch and you change, if you do some of it in an S twist thread and then you do another shape in a Z twist thread, it's not going to behave any differently. Just the stripes on your satin stitch from the stripes across the threads are going to go the opposite direction, and that will be your only difference. However, if you worked buttonhole stitch in a particular way with an S twist thread and then changed to a Z twist thread, it would make quite a lot of difference to the way the stitch looked. So today I'm going to show you stem stitch and outline stitch and the differences in how they look when they're stitched with either S twist or Z twist thread. And I'm also going to show you some whipped back stitch and the difference it makes with S twist and Z twist threads, and also the whipping direction that you use. So I'm going to start off first of all with, this is an S twist thread, and I'm going to do stem stitch. So I'll take my needle in there and then come out on the right hand side of the line . So each stitch I'm making sure it joins with the previous one, and that gives you a really nice ropey looking stitch. Okay, so this is stem stitch with an S twist thread. I'll just do a little bit more and then I'll change over to doing stem stitch, to doing outline stitch with an S twist thread. Okay, so that looks like a good amount to me. So I'll just move straight back up here and start doing it again, but as outline stitch. So this time I come out on the left hand side. Everything else is exactly the same. Oops, no, I want to come out that side. And you can see how, because of the thread twist, this is already happening. This looks quite different. The stitches all blend into one another and it looks more of one continuous line, whereas stem stitch looks like very much individual stitches. And either one of these is fine to use. It depends on the look that you want when you're doing it. So stem stitch might be the look that you want, or outline stitch might be the look that you want. Either one is correct, just your choice which you use. Okay, so that is, first of all, we've got stem stitch here with an S-twist thread and outline stitch with an S-twist thread. Okay, so now I've changed to a Z-twist thread. This is an Edmar thread. It's rayon. I do not like working with rayon, but for the purposes of this, I will do it. So this time it says Z-twist thread, and I'm going to be working stem stitch. So the same as this line of stitching here. The reason why I don't like working with rayon thread is it's terribly springy and it doesn't behave the way I like it to. It has a mind of its own. Obviously, if I was working with it all the time, probably I'd get used to that, but I don't work with it, so I'm not used to it at all. Okay, so straight away you can see that this is starting to behave much more like and look much more like the outline stitch in the way that all of the stitches are blending together. And once again, this is because of thread twist. It twists the opposite way to the outline stitch in S-twist thread, and you would expect that because we are doing stem stitch in a Z-twist thread. But that is pretty much the only difference in the appearance, apart from this is pink and it's green. You can see that this is getting caught every single time, which is one of the things I don't like about rayon thread. Okay, so we've done our stem stitch in a Z-twist thread. Now we are going to do outline stitch in a Z-twist thread. I am of course working this left-handed because I am left-handed. You could do exactly the same movements with your needle in your right hand, and that's why I've worked it down the line instead of across the line, because it's much easier to switch between a left-handed and a right-handed method, or just handedness, if you're doing it down the line. Okay, so you can see now this is outline stitch in a Z-twist thread, and it is similar in appearance to stem stitch in an S-twist thread. This is outline stitch in an S-twist thread, and it looks similar in appearance to stem stitch in a Z-twist thread. I hope that helps you understand the way things behave a bit differently between the two threads and which stitch you're using. Okay, so I have a base of 6 lines of back stitch worked here, and I am going to whip these base lines in different ways with different types of threads. So here we have 4 lines of S-twist thread worked in back stitch, and here we have 2 lines of Z-twist thread worked in back stitch. So I'm first of all just going to start whipping this one from the top and moving down the line, but moving my needle in a left to right action. So this is an S-twist thread that I am whipping with, as well as an S-twist thread that I have worked the base line in as well. So that is the first line. Now I'm going to move to the top of the next line, and I'm going to start at the top and work down, but my needle movement is going to go from right to left this time. So we still have an S-twist thread that we're whipping with and an S-twist base, and this time we are whipping in the opposite direction. Now this is a more right-handed action and the other one was a more left-handed action. If you are right-handed and you want to do the left-handed action one, or you are left-handed and want to do the right-handed action one, just turn the whole thing 90 degrees and you should be able to do it just fine. Okay, I've now changed to a Z twist thread and I'm going to use my Z twist base lines, and I am going to start at the top and work down, and again I'm using a left to right whipping action. So again, this is a rayon thread. My base Z thread was actually a silk this time, and that may actually be having a small interaction, like it may make a difference because the rayon is a more unyielding thread than the silk. The silk tends to behave much more how I want it to, whereas the rayon does not. So I've moved to the top of the next line and I'm going to work down the line again, but this time with a right to left action. I am so not a fan of rayon thread. I want the thread to do what I want it to do, not what it wants to do. Okay, so that's the bottom of that line. Now what I'm going to do with these two middle lines is they are an S twist base, but I'm going to wrap them with a Z twist top. So I will again start at the top and work down with a left to right action. I could have just as easily made this a Z twist base and used an S twist whip on top, but I chose to do it this way. So this time I'm going to go down the S twist thread from the top to the bottom, but with a right to left motion. And this time I am using a tapestry needle to do the stitching. Because of its blunt tip, it's less likely to catch on the threads as you pull them through. You're not so likely to snag the tip on some of those threads that you're trying to whip. Okay, so there's 6 different permutations of whipping and thread twist, and basically it's a matter of figuring out what type of thread you have and the effect that you want to get with it. So just play around with what you've got until you get the effect you want. So I hope you enjoyed those demonstrations. Perhaps you'd like to get out your stitch dictionaries and have a look through them and see if there's any other stitches that you think that thread twist will make a difference to, and you can suggest them to me. If you're interested in seeing any other stitches and how it affects them, please suggest, and if I have the chance then I would love to do a demonstration for you, because other people might be interested as well. If you're enjoying this series, then please share it with your friends, and I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. It really makes a difference to me to know that people are enjoying this and that I'm not just talking to myself. So thanks very much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.